will be telling you the story of Sam and the gold coins. Sam was a greedy and selfish man. He always wanted lots and lots of money and would do anything to get it. He would own everything for himself if he could. He was very cruel to his workers and paid them very little. However, one day he got a taste of his own medicine. He was doing his average checkup of his thousands of coins, but that day specifically, he double-checked and he triple-checked until he realized that he had lost a small bag of 50 gold coins. He looked everywhere for them. He scoured the land day and night. He sent all his workers in search of them. He told his friends and neighbors that he had lost a bag of coins. Sam was so sad that he had lost all those coins. 3 days later, however, a young boy was walking along, and he stopped. He looked down into a stream and saw a bag floating, and curiosity took over, so he grabbed a stick and pulled the bag ashore. When he opened the bag, his jaw dropped, and he realized that the bag was filled with gold coins. To him, it was magical. All he had seen in his life were silver and bronze. But now, he had seen the magic of gold. He rushed home as quickly as he could to tell his father the good news. After the boy finished his story, the father had a sad smile on his face as he said, "We cannot keep these, son. They belong to my master. He has been looking for them for 3 days now." The son hung his head sadly, but knew it was the right thing to do. So the next day, he went to his master and gave Sam back the bag of money. Sam was overjoyed to have the bag, but decided to play a cruel trick on his worker. "There were 75 gold coins in this bag, and you gave me only 50. Where are the rest? You have stolen them." Sam was baffled, and he looked around, not knowing what to do. He pleaded for his innocence, saying that he just gave whatever his son had found. But Sam did not want to hear it, and he took the issue to court. The judge first heard Sam and the boy, who both assured that the bag had only contained 50 gold coins when they found it, and that they had not stolen any. Then he turned to Sam, who said, "Yes, my lord, I had 75 gold coins in that bag, and they gave me only 50. Therefore, it is quite obvious they have stolen the rest of the coins." The judge thought for a long, silent moment. And then he made his decision all at once. He turned to the father and the son and said, "They both tell me that there were 50 gold coins and that they have stolen none. And Sam is looking for a bag of 75 gold coins. As I have no reason to doubt them, I declare that the bag found by the son was not the bag that was Sam's. However, if anybody here finds a bag of 75 gold coins, even you, I will declare that it belongs to Sam, as he is the rightful owner. Furthermore, since there are no charges against the loss of 50 gold coins, I will give the bag to the father and son as an appreciation for their honesty. Case closed."
But I'll find out for sure.
We're going to learn in about 6 minutes everything I learned in technical college about how electricity works. Tonight we're going to travel inside of the electrical cable. So buckle up, hang on, and enjoy the ride. First, we're going to meet the characters inside of the cable. Hello, I'm the proton. I'm positive, positive, positive. My job is to get those electrons moving. Now, let's meet the electron. That proton, he tricked me into this. He never told me there were going to be so many people. I'm scared of everything. He's always talking me into these things. And then there's the naughty neutron. I used to be the neutral one, but they wouldn't play with me. They said I was boring, so I decided I was going to ruin all of their plans. they don't think I'm boring anymore. So now let's go inside the cable and see how it all works. Come on, Electron, come on, let's get to moving. We got to get to moving. The human's about to turn on the switch. I don't know, that looks like a zip line. Aren't those things dangerous? No, they aren't dangerous at all. The last time Electron fell off, it was 30 years ago. That's still too long for me. You pushed me. That wasn't fair. Well, I had to. The human just turned on the switch. I had to get the electricity moving. Well, I might fall off and die. No. You are an atom. You're not even alive. I'm related to Adam? No. You're not related to Adam. You are part of an atom. Oh, well, I might fall off and get eaten. What on earth would eat you? A dust bunny? Meanwhile, the naughty neutron has been planning their demise. Look at them up there, having fun. They won't be having fun for long. Look at this little electromagnet. It's going to suck them right down. No more electricity for those humans either. And now you know why the electricity will go off on a perfectly sunny day. It's that neutron. But anyhow, back up on the line. I just know something's going to happen. I just know it. Nothing is going to happen. It's a perfectly sunny day. Look. There's that neutron. I know he's planning something. No, he's not planning anything at all. But look, I think he has an electromagnet. He does not have an electromagnet. I am sure of that. But I'm falling. I think you were right. I'm falling too. But look down there. There's where the zip line runs back around. We'll just grab onto it and be just fine. Are you just as sure about that as that neutron not having an electromagnet? Yes, I'm sure. See, I grabbed back onto the line. I made it too. I can't believe it. And look, the human's about to turn off the switch again. Oh, thank goodness, the ride is over. But anyhow, next time, do you know what's going to happen? I'm going to take that electron surfing. I've heard that neutrons has sharks, but who believes rumors like that? Thank you all for coming and listening to my tale about the proton, the electron, and that naughty neutron. So thank you all for coming, and I hope you all enjoy all the stories this weekend. Thank you.
I don't know if this all happens to you, but it seems like the moment I walk into the room, I forget what I went into the room for. It's like up there in the corner in the shadows is a monster lurking, a monster ready and zaps everything out of my brain just like that. And I swear he takes pleasure in watching me stand in the middle of the room scratching my head, trying to figure out what task I was on, what mission I needed to accomplish. And I know he rejoices when I finally shrug my shoulders and exit the room in defeat. Well, I was bound and determined not to let that memory-zapping monster get the best of me. In this modern day of computers and apps, I figured there had to be an app out there that would take care and dispel that monster. On the internet, I found several memory games you could play to help improve your memory. I found many articles explaining that this is a natural aging process. That's not what I wanted. I wanted something physical, something I could push a button and zap that monster and dispel him. I finally discovered on a chat board, it said, write it down. Write down your thoughts and goals as they occur to you. What is more dependable app than a good old-fashioned notepad and pen? So armed with the notepad in one hand and a pen in the other, I was ready to face that memory monster. It worked rather well. It was like magic. As I wrote down the words every time they came to me of what I needed to do, the words would glow. It would send a wave of electricity up my arm into my brain, implanting my mission forever. It was great. Never underestimate the power of the pen and paper. Why, over the weeks, I gained confidence. I was remembering. I was depending on my app less and less. I felt confident. Except for that grocery list, I still wrote that down because I didn't want to forget the bacon and eggs. Well, just earlier this week, my husband and I, we were enjoying a TV show. And he looks at me during the commercial break and says, "Dear, would you like a bowl of ice cream?" I said, "That would be wonderful," thinking he was going to get up and fix it for us. Well, next commercial break came along, and he looks at me again and says, "Dear, would you like that bowl of ice cream?" Well, I don't know what I was thinking. I guess that was a hint. I said, "Well, sure, dear, would you like me to fix us some?" He said, "That would be great. That way I wouldn't have to disturb Spencer, our schnauzer, who was sleeping on his lap. I'd take some chocolate chip." I said, "Okay," pushing the cat off of my lap so I could get up to go fix the ice cream. As I went in there, and he says, "Don't you think you should write that down?" I said, "No, dear, I'm just going into the kitchen. I think I can remember that." As I went into the kitchen, I walked past my plants there in the window. They looked rather sad. They're kind of drooping. I stopped and looked and thought, when's the last time I watered these guys? I couldn't remember. I looked at my notepad. I didn't write it down. So I thought, well, I better water these guys while I'm thinking about it before I forget. When I finished that task, I was trying to think what that mission was that I was on to begin with. About that time, my husband said, "Dear, when you fix that ice cream, I'd like some bananas on it." Great save. I really appreciated that. I said, "Okay, dear, bowl of chocolate chip ice cream with bananas coming up. Don't you think you ought to write that down?" "No, dear, I'm just going to the kitchen. I'll remember that." So I turned to go to the kitchen and about fell, tripping over Mikey, the cat, who had entwined himself around my ankles between my feet. Pushing him aside, I said, "Mikey, what do you want?" And he goes, "Meow." I said, "Well," and he just swishes his tail indignantly and looks at me like I should know what he wants. Then it hit me. I hadn't fed Mikey. I don't know when I fed the cat last. So I thought, well, before I forget, I better feed him. And I looked at my notepad. I hadn't wrote it down. So down the basement steps I went to feed Mikey, trying not to trip as he's persistently between my feet, wanting food. My husband shouts down and says, "Dear, when you fix that bowl of ice cream, I think I'd like some fudge on it too." I said, "Okay, one bowl of chocolate chip ice cream with bananas and fudge." He says, "You think you should write that down?" I said, "No, I'll remember. I'm just going to feed the cat and I'll be right back up." And as I fed Mikey, I kept saying over and over to myself, chocolate chip ice cream, bananas, and fudge. Chocolate chip ice creams, banana, and fudge. Chocolate chip ice creams, banana, and fudge. Going back up the stairs, I kept repeating it. I entered the kitchen. Zap. Everything just flew out of my brain. There was that memory monster up there in the corner again and took whatever was in there out. I stood in the kitchen, scratching my head, turning circles, and thought, my notepad, it's surely in there. I took it out. I pointed that at the monster, but nothing happened. I looked in it, flipping through the pages, looking for the words. Nothing was glowing. And then finally, there they were, confident again, and the words glowing. I pointed it at that monster, and it went away. I knew now what I needed to do. I fixed my husband his snack. Taking it back in there, I presented him with a fine plate of bacon and eggs. He looked at me in puzzlement, kind of bewildered. I thought something was wrong. Something was missing. I forgot something. There was 3 things. And then I thought I should have wrote it down. About that time, he looked at me and said, dear, you forgot the toast.
About 2 months ago, my daughter saw a mouse in her kitchen. So the next morning, she threw the kids in the car, and they drove to the humane shelter, and they adopted a cat. The cat that they chose was a black tomcat. Oh, he had beautiful, shiny black fur from his head to his toes, all except at the very tip of his tail where he had a white spot. So since he had that tip at the tip of his tail, they named him Tipsy. Now, Tipsy came with all of his shots, and he also came with a microchip embedded between his shoulders with all of Caitlin's information on it. So if Tipsy was ever lost, they could easily reunite him with Caitlin. Tipsy turned out to be a very, very good mouser. But Tipsy was, after all, a tomcat. So Tipsy liked to go out at night, stay out all night, and carouse around. But he always came back the next morning, until the one day that he didn't. Caitlin, noticing that Tipsy was gone, stood on her deck and she hollered, "Here, Tipsy! Kitty, 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 kitty! Here, Tipsy!" But no Tipsy. Tipsy had been out carousing around the night before, and he had suddenly found himself nose to nose, toe to toe with a scrawny coyote. Now that coyote was the rudest, the most inconsiderate coyote you would ever want to meet. He not only ate Tipsy right there on the spot, but he didn't even have the common courtesy to first take Tipsy to the sheriff and have him scanned so that Caitlin would have known what had happened to Tipsy. Instead, Caitlin stood out on her deck day after day, hollering, "Here, Tipsy, kitty, 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 here, Tipsy," but no Tipsy. Oh, that old scrawny coyote was so full of himself and so full of Tipsy. He was walking around the woods, and suddenly he found himself nose to nose, toe to toe with a big black bear. Now, that bear had no intention of eating that scrawny coyote. But the coyote didn't know that. He got so scared that he pooped right there on the spot, turned and ran. The bear, startled, took a step forward and stepped right in that mess. Oh, the bear was just walking through the woods, shaking his hand, trying to get that mess off of his paw, when all of a sudden he found himself nose to nose, toe to toe with a hunter. Oh, this wasn't just any hunter, though. This was a first time in the woods hunter, a brand new, didn't know what he was doing hunter. His name was Allen DeBey. Now, Allen, seeing that bear smack in front of him, lifted his shotgun up, and he fired, and he missed. He hit a jackrabbit, a white one, that was about 10 feet off to his right. The bear, startled, took a step forward. Allen, scared to death, started walking backwards, stumbled over a log, and as he went down, that shotgun went off. He landed flat on his back. He got up, crawled to his feet, and started to run, and realized the bear wasn't following him. He turned and looked, and that errant shot that he had shot off while he fell had landed smack between the bear's eyes. Oh, Allen was so happy with his kill that he dragged that bear home and started to skin him. Well, he skinned a little, drank a little, skinned a little, drank a little. Well, by the end, he was a little unstable, but he had this gorgeous full-length black coat and this fuzzy black hat to go with it. Oh, he was so proud of himself. He went out in the downtown streets of Downs and started just strutting around in his hat, and he was still a little unstable on his feet. Suddenly, he found himself nose to nose, toe to toe with the sheriff. The sheriff, seeing that he was a little wobbly, took him by the shoulder, took him to the sheriff's station. Just as he was walking in, a deputy was scanning a stray dog. When the sheriff and Allen walked by, the scanner went beep, 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 beep. The sheriff said, "Give me that thing." And he took it and he scanned it up and down, up and down. Every time he'd get near Allen's head, it would go beep, 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 beep. Well, it turns out that when that coyote had eaten Tipsy, he had also eaten the microchip. And when he had pooped, it had come out. And when that bear had stepped in that mess, it had wedged right between his toes. And with every step he took, it worked its way further and further into his skin. And when Allen had skinned that bear, he had left that microchip in there, and it was now part of Allen's hat. The sheriff said, "By golly, I believe you belong to someone." He pulled the information up and he called Caitlin. Right when he called her, she was standing on her deck, hollering, "Here, Tipsy, kitty, 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 here, Tipsy." "Hello?" He said, "Ma'am, I have someone here that belongs to you." "Is he black all over with just a tip of white on his tail?" Well, the sheriff looked Allen up and down, looked around at his hind side and said, "Yes, ma'am, he is." She said, "He's tipsy, isn't he? He's tipsy." The sheriff said, "Yes, ma'am, he is rather tipsy." Well, Caitlin rushed down to the sheriff's station to gather up Tipsy. Now, she was a little apprehensive at first because he didn't look quite like she remembered. But he was covered in black, shiny fur from his head to his toes, with just a tip of white on his tail, and he was chipped with all of her information. So, of course, it was Tipsy. She took him home. Now, Tipsy was not a good mouser like he had been. In fact, he could stand nose to nose, toe to toe with a mouse and not be able to catch it. Oh, but there is one thing that Tipsy did much better than he used to. When Caitlin would put the kids in bed at night, Tipsy told them the bedtime story. Oh, he could tell the most imaginative, creative bedtime stories. But his stories aren't true. Not like the one I just told you. So if you ever get the opportunity to hear a Tipsy Allen story, don't believe a word of it.
We were doing about close to 100 miles an hour down that dirt road, and it was kind of interesting. Had that big rooster tail of dust behind us, and every time we came to a little bump in the road, we'd catch air. That front end would come up a little bit, and that feeling when you go down, you're kind of flying. Now, I do want to let you know, normally I don't condone that type of behavior, especially now. But back then, well, we were young, we were male, and that's pretty much it. And to make matters worse, I was riding in Phil's car. Phil was very proud of his car. He had a 1971 MG Midget, the perfect car to go down a dirt road on. For those of you who don't know what this car is, it's a small British sports car, convertible, that if you took a skateboard and lengthened it a bit, and then widened it just enough to put two people side by side and put car tires on it. That's how big it was. They called it a midget for a reason. And we're going down this road. The sun's starting to go down. We're heading west into it. And I got to thinking, maybe it's time we should slow down. And I just turned to Phil just to say those very words when all of a sudden, bam! And I see pieces of rubber flying by the car on the left-hand side. And the car just kind of tilts. We had a blowout. The left front tire left the car. So I immediately moved as far to the right as I could, which wasn't very far. I grabbed Phil, jerked him over a little bit, and we were kind of wobbling on three wheels, and I knew this was not sustainable. And then I remembered we had a coil of rope behind the seat. So I got that coil of rope out, stretched it out, made myself a noose, and then did something I had sworn I would never do with riding with Phil. I took off my shoulder harness and seatbelt, squirreled around on that seat, stuck my head above that windshield. How many people here have ridden a motorcycle at 100 miles an hour down a dirt road? It was kind of like that. Proceeded to go like this and lassoed the left front part of the bumper. That's back when cars had bumpers you could lasso. Pulled back on it really good, tightened that rope, squirreled down, got it over the windshield, and was able to get that car balanced back up on all three wheels. We could finally slow down. And then I hear Phil say something. It's like, oops. We're getting ready to head up this bigger hill, and at the top of the hill, now you may not be familiar with this, but a tractor hauling a big wagon of hay pretty much fills up the width of a dirt road. And they don't do 100 miles an hour. In fact, I don't even think this thing was even doing 50. And I knew there was no way we could stop. I looked at Phil. He looked at me. He grinned, reached over, and he flicked the switch on the dashboard. Phil had modified his car. Anybody know what nitrous oxide is? You enter that into the engine, you get a lot more power for a short period of time, and we rocketed up that hill. In fact, we kept on going. It was my first experience of feeling what the Dukes of Hazzard must have been like. Except I was in a small orange MG Midget and not in a Dodge Charger. And I really wasn't certain what the landing was going to be like, not on three wheels, but it worked out okay because we came up into the air and we landed right on top of those hay bales. And then we just kind of sunk in. Now, from the time the tire blew to the time we landed, it took about 9 seconds. So you can understand, we sat there for about 2 or 3 more seconds, then Phil looked at me, I looked at him, he reached over, turned off the engine. And it's interesting. When you're 30 feet up on a bunch of hay bales, you can see a long, long way. I mean, you can see the curvature of the earth sometimes. And I'm looking around going, I wonder how we're going to get down from here. And the tractor's just bouncing around, and it finally turns right into a driveway, heads down the driveway towards a farmhouse, and I'm thinking, we have some explaining to do. We've been in worse situations. We can explain this. Tractor curved around by the barn, turned it off. It finally got quiet, and this lady comes running out of the house, yelling at her husband, saying, "You're late. We've got to get going right now. Come on, we're late." And the husband yelling back, "I got to put the hay up." And she said, "No, you can do that later." And she reached over and grabbed him, drug him off. They got into the car, and down the driveway they went. And it was quiet. So Phil and I got out of the car. We climbed down, looked up. It's a long way up there. And we studied on how we could do this, and we finally realized we could get the car down if we started unloading the hay. But my parents had raised me never to litter. So I just didn't want to toss hay around on the ground. And we noticed this conveyor belt type thing going up, and we checked, and sure enough, there were hay up in the hayloft. Found the switch for it, turned it on. So we started unloading, we put it on the conveyor belt, and we just kind of rocked that car all the way down. Left it on that last bale of hay, changed the tire, and then, unfortunately, we had to dig all the hay out from underneath the car. We worked out a ramp, backed it off, then we went back up, gathered all that hay, bundled it up, and tied it up as well as we could with the leftover twine, took it up to the top, made sure everything was clean, and then we drove off. I've always wondered what that farmer thought when he came home and he found no hay on the hay wagon and found it in his loft. Oh well.
I will be telling the story of Captain Croak and Sir William. There were once two pirate friends. Captain Croak, the once superhero, but was kind of off-brand, so no one really caught on. But he was a frog. And there was Sir William, who used to be a very successful businessman, but found pirating and found it was so much more fun than business. So they were on a journey to find all the treasure in the Pacific Ocean. So Captain Croak heard that on Dead Man's Island there was treasure that no one had ever found because they had all died before they could get there. Sir William said, "Well, it can't be that dangerous. I mean, think of all the adventures that we've been on. They're not that, it can't be any more dangerous than that."
Well, I mean, no one's ever come back from that. You never know. Rabbit!
Don't get yourself in a twist. We'll be just fine. Now give me the map to where Dead Man's Island is, and we'll go.
All right, let me fish it out of my pocket. You know, I have a lot of things in here. You never know when anything's gonna pop up. Here you go.
All right, let's go. As they went off to their pirate ship, people asked them, "You going on another adventure, guys?" "Yes, we're going to Dead Man's Island. I hear that there's plenty of treasure."
You do realize that no one's ever come back alive from that.
"Yes, that's why we're going, to prove a point that we're strong." "Whatever." So they went on their boat to Dead Man's Island. As they sailed along, it was quite smooth sailing, no storms, which is quite odd. That had never happened before. So when they arrived at Dead Man's Island, they docked their boat and hopped on to the land.
Well, the ground is pretty smooth here. I think you won't fall through after all the cookies you ate on the trip here.
"Excuse you, it's part of my diet. 1 cookie for each hand."
Whatever, rabbit.
So they went along, and the Dead Man's Island had a huge mountain in the middle with a cave, very dark and menacing.
I don't know how I feel about this. It's kind of scary, rabbit.
"You need to stop worrying. It's just fine. Let's go." So they walked along into the cave with the treasure map in hand, and they walked in, and they were walking along the cave, and suddenly it started to get dark. They didn't have a flashlight. "Hey, do you happen to have a flashlight in those deep pockets of yours, Captain Kirk?" I think I do. I put it in there this morning. Just wait a moment. Here we go. So, with light and able to see, they walked through the cave, and suddenly, they fell through a sand trap. Well, that wasn't very fun, Rabbit. You know, I thought it was quite fun, actually, falling to what could have been my death. You don't have to give me that sarcastic tone, Rabbit. So they kept walking, and they came across a crossroads. You could have gone right, left, or forward, but it wasn't any crossroads. There was a skeleton propped up against the wall to the right. And Sir William thought it was quite strange because they hadn't seen any before. So he went up to investigate it, and out of nowhere the skeleton said, "Go left." Whoa! Skeletons aren't supposed to talk. That's why they're dead. Don't you think I know that? Why do you think it would tell us to go left if we're not supposed to? Exactly. We're going left, whether you like it or not, since I am the superior here. I'm the one with the captain in my name. But I was a successful businessman, and you were an unsuccessful superhero. Cold. Rabbit? So they went left, but it seemed to be a dead end. Great work, Smarty. Rabbit? This is not a dead end. Don't you see that doorknob? I do now. Rabbit? And there was also a skeleton there. And the skeleton had said, "Your eyes don't see, but your feet will." I wonder what that means, Rabbit? It probably means that we need to look underneath the doormat that says, it tickles my bones when you walk in." The skeleton was sat in the corner laughing to himself. He was such the jokester. So they looked underneath the doormat, but Sir William hadn't seen anything. "There's nothing under here. Do you see something?" Well, since I was a superhero, one of my super strengths was with my eyesight. And my secret was, don't tell anyone, I ate a lot of carrots. Everybody knows that. You tell everybody that. But you're not supposed to tell anyone I am. Rabbit? So there was the microscopic key underneath the mat. So he picked it up and placed it in the lock. A beautiful room was before them, with gold, diamonds, everything you could dream of in treasure form. This is quite the treasure room, might I say. I'd like to consider it quite posh. You consider everything posh, right? Well, I have to have something connected to my homeland. You've lost your accent years ago, Rabbit? But I am still from my homeland, and that doesn't make it any different. So they wondered where they were going to get out, because they couldn't go back through the sand trap. So they were searching the room, and they found a hatchet above them with a stepladder. We should probably go out this way, Rabbit? Yes, I think so too, Captain Obvious. Hey, it's Captain Croak to you. Whatever. So they went through the hatch, and rushed back to the town. "We found the treasure! We found the treasure, Rabbit!" Can you say it any louder? Well, if you found the treasure, then where is it? It seems we've forgotten it. I'll meet back with you later. Ribbit? So they rushed back to the island so no one would beat them to their treasure. They got all the treasure and put it in their boat and went back to the town. They showed everyone their treasure and they were thoroughly surprised. They had all thought that they were lying. Well, maybe I shouldn't doubt you guys next time. I still don't like pirates. That doesn't matter. At least we're rich. Rabbit?